What's up YouTube? Ryan Panny here. Hope you're doing reasonably well. It is time for a review of the new Cataclysm record Meditations, out this past Friday, June 1st. Funny enough, I actually had a video that I was working on about Cataclysm, unrelated to this record, that I was thinking of slipping in whenever I had a quiet release week. Obviously that hasn't happened yet because this is like the busiest months of the year that we're in right now. But the video essentially was going to be about how Cataclysm in particular are like the perfect death metal gateway. Cataclysm are a band who have been pumping out records super consistently for nearly a quarter century now, and pumping out good records, in my opinion at least, for 18 years straight. And you know, even those 90s ones are halfway decent. It's just that production-wise, they sound like dog shit. And if you ask me, death metal should never be like black metal in that sense. It really shouldn't. But the band's sound, to me, is best described as death metal in its most accessible form. And that's why I've always felt like Cataclysm is the perfect first death metal band for someone who's just trying to get into the genre. Because they have the lightning fast blast beats and the roaring death growls and the tremolo guitars that all make them undeniably a death metal band, but over the years they've pumped so much groove metal and so much melodic death metal into their sound that it makes their music such a nice, easy transition from the Children of Bodoms and Insomniums of the world, or you know what, the Machine Heads and the Fear Factories of the world. And on top of that, frontman Maurizio Iacono's vocals are actually completely audible, which is rare in a genre full of gurgling sociopaths like Chris Barnes. So they're a band that I've always kind of pushed to people as a death metal 101 of sorts. And you know, their slightly generic approach will by no means be the be-all and end-all for you, but it'll certainly get you in the door if death metal is at all of interest to you. And currently, where the band are at now, in my opinion, they're coming off a career highlight with their last record of Ghosts and Gods, which showed up on a lot of people's year-end metal lists for 2015. That record was packed with memorable moments. And you know, it was a pretty diverse record too, because it combined some of that more simplistic old school death metal stuff with moments of suffocating modern intensity. And the band even got kind of deathcore-ish on tracks like Hate Spirit and Black Sheep. And you know, they did a great job of peppering in these little melodic moments that served as like little breathers for the listener, but the breathers weren't too long as to placate or to pacify the destructiveness of these songs. And you know, that closing track, The World is a Dying Insect, was probably Cataclysm at the most dynamic I had heard them in multiple records. Yeah, Ghosts and Gods was right up there with other Cataclysm favorites of mine, like 2002's Essential, Shadows and Dust, and that record's follow-up, Serenity and Fire. I was so psyched to see them come through with a latter career triumph like that. Because the few records before were decent, but it felt like they were kind of on autopilot. So this new one, Meditations, 2 of its 10 tracks were already teased as pre-album singles, Guillotine and Narcissist, and they batted 500 with me. I really enjoyed Guillotine and how straight to the point it was. It's an under 3-minute song that it essentially revolves around this one real tense yet melodic chorus that immediately earned this song a prime spot on my running playlist, because that chorus just has that climbing chord progression that builds that tension and kind of makes you feel like you're in some sort of motivational montage or something. But the second single, Narcissist, I did not care for. I mean, when you cut out that 50-second buildup in the beginning of this song, it's essentially under 2 minutes of Maurizio just yelling about someone else's personality disorder over these just really forgettable chug-a-chug guitars. And the only reprieve that happens is that nice dark chord progression that happens in the middle, but then that part never comes back and the song just abruptly ends. It's unfulfilling and not up to par, and honestly just feels like a demo of 2 separate ideas spliced together. And unfortunately, much to my displeasure, those stupid, overly dumbed down chugga-chug guitar riffs that I just mentioned are all over this fucking record. It makes me so fucking annoyed. I cannot believe how plain some of these guitar riffs are. Like the second track, Outsider, the post-chorus of that song has this riff that's literally this one note, and I'm just imagining how boring that must be to play, let alone listen to for me. And the following track, The Last Breath I'll Take Is Yours, which I actually do like overall, it's got the same shit. It's got this epic fucking intro that builds things up so nicely. And then right out of that intro, the band launch into another one of these one-note fucking riffs. This one is just a little bit faster and has this little tail on it, as if that's supposed to make all the fucking difference. And yeah, if you skip to the middle of like Born to Kill and Destined to Die, or especially that dunderheaded fucking breakdown at the very end of the song, What Doesn't Break Doesn't Heal, or that song's verses, you'll see more of exactly what I'm talking about. There really is a fine line between simplistic or stripped down and just mind-numbingly boring. And you know, I read somewhere the band came up with some of these songs in the same room in jam sessions, which makes sense. You know, you're sitting there warming up and you go, duh, 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 duh. Oh, let's try that. But you know, I know it sounds nice in theory, that organic way of writing, but it doesn't allow for interesting or complex or stimulating guitar riffs to pop out a lot of the time.
Yeah, I straight up don't understand how you can write riffs like this and find them stimulating to play. I don't get it. Like Outsider, I swear to God, it's literally... I mean, mind you, I'm in like C sharp and they're in B, I think. But it's the same shit. You take that little pattern, it happens in the post-chorus in that song, and you speed it up a little bit and throw that little tail on it, and it's the same shit in The Last Breath I'll Take Is Yours. Or whatever that tail is. It's unbelievable. The worst one, again, is the the end of the song What Doesn't Break Doesn't Heal. It's like a fucking Hatebreed B-side. Or if you want the, excuse me, if you want the exact notes. These songs feel like they're coming from jam sessions, because you're like, all right, like, are we warming up? Okay. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, they make it on your record and most of your riffs are fucking one note. I mean, look, not every fucking riff has to be. And that would get fucking boring too, but just maybe it's because I'm a guitar player. Maybe other listeners don't care, but when I hear it fucking bothers me. I'm sorry.
And yeah, besides the rhythm guitars on this album frequently putting me to sleep, there's also just like squandered moments. Like the harmonized solo in And Then I Saw Blood. Like that could have been epic, and it's just executed in a very underwhelming fashion. There's also the bridge section from the song What Doesn't Break Doesn't Heal, which, can you tell I don't like this song? It's so awkwardly and kind of discordantly pairs like a guitar lead and a guitar riff, which those two things probably could have been good complements for something other than each other. There's also the issue of this record's production. It definitely feels underproduced at times and sonically inferior to everything Cataclysm has done in the 21st century. One part in particular that always bothers me is the two guitar parts in the chorus to the song Outsider. That section like literally sounds like a demo. There's not enough meat on it, aside from in one ear you got like a guitar playing power chords, and in the other ear you got a guitar playing a simple riff that kind of goes along with that. It feels so empty. It doesn't feel full and lively. It sounds like a demo. A lot of these songs actually have parts like that where it sounds like it didn't really change much from the demo version to the version that we're hearing. So there's a staleness to this record, and definitely a wow factor sorely missing, to say the least. But you know, I gotta say, after fucking hating this record, and I mean hating this record for a couple days, I spent a little bit more time with it, and I've started to warm up to some of the highlights that it does have. Like the track Bend the Arc, Cut the Cord. That is some crushing shit. I love that awkwardly timed breakdown that dominates the middle of the song, and also how that seemingly half-assed guitar intro comes around full circle for the outro, and all of a sudden it makes sense. It feels like Cataclysm put a lot of thought into this song. And the riffs are a little spicier than all the shit that I was complaining about earlier, and there's a little more going on. This is a killer track. In Limbic Resonance also, despite feeling kind of pieced together and discombobulated and containing at least 30 seconds of unnecessary chug, it's got some killer moments in it too, like those sizzling blast beats and soaring tremolo guitars that open the song up. And you know, the chorus to the song The Last Breath I'll Take Is Yours, that chorus is absolutely anthemic and just has this sing-along quality to it that always has me, every listen to this record, I'm always looking forward to that chorus in that song. So there's some cool shit on here. So I've eased off considerably from my initial hatred of this LP. You know, here's what Meditations is. Here's what it actually is. You ready? It is the very definition of a non-essential album, both in the context of Cataclysm's catalog and in just the larger metal landscape of 2018. It's non-essential, especially since I've already started putting together my metal mid-year list it'll probably come out like early July, and there's a lot to choose from, guys. Like, this is a killer year, you know? So like, why would I listen to this? If you just want some heavy ass shit, this record can deliver that, but I see virtually no reason for me to come back to it when I could just listen to Shadows and Dust and Serenity and Fire on a fucking loop. It brings nothing new to the table. In fact, it brings a lesser version of everything to the table. And in its 38-minute runtime, which is like the shortest Cataclysm record in 15 years, it still manages to drag considerably. So, you know, while I don't mind it, there's no real reason for me to go listen to it again. There really isn't. So I'm going to recommend that you and anybody else trying to get into Cataclysm skip over this one, because you don't really have much use for it. Meditations gets a 5 out of 10 from me. As always, thanks so much for watching, guys. If you liked this video and are not yet subscribed, please consider doing so by clicking right here, or just checking out any of my other metal-related content that I publish on this channel on a weekly basis. Thanks so much for supporting as always, and I will see you soon.